Hey, thanks for checking out this video and signing up to the newsletter. I'm going to do as much as I can to break down hotginger.com. Won't be able to cover every aspect of it. So if there's anything in particular that doesn't get covered in the video, please let me know and I'll answer it in either newsletter or I'll just message you back directly. So here we are. This is the animate mode in Rive if you're not familiar. The best place to look to Rive and was where I've learned. YouTube, their YouTube channel is fantastic, and the documentation, their literal manual is great as well. A lot of answers there and a lot of examples of how this works with code. So for now, I'm going to focus on the Rive side of things, and then we'll get to the code later on. This is your design window layout. This is your animations. The biggest difference is this down here, which is these are your timelines. So these is where you're going to put your keyframes in, all different ones. I put them all in folders because it's great to be organized, and you can close them down there, and it's a lot easier. This is the state machine, and this is really what's setting Rive apart from everybody else. And this is where we can build all our interactions in. So this is what happens when you get onto the website. Looks around. I won't go into the details, but this is made with a joystick. So look up how to make a joystick in Rive, which basically is you set an up and down state. In one timeline you do a left to right, X, Y, whatever you want to call it. In another, connect it to a joystick. Have that joystick, then follow your cursor. Again, follow cursor. There's plenty of tutorials on it, how to do that. And that's how that's all done. So if same with the eyes, slightly different configurations, but that's how you do that. Button hovers over, so we go into the hover state. When the button hover condition, button hover is a boolean. A boolean stores two values, and we get that here in our inputs. Our inputs are very important. These help us define the interactivity. So this says when this is true. So when I hover over, because it is true, it is hovering over, it will now play this animation because I've set a condition down here that says button hover equals true, play the animation. That's essentially what I'm saying. When button hover goes to false, don't play the animation, and we actually end up going back to button idle. If it's button hover is true, and then we click on it, that's a very important one because the whole, you want to click the button to get our info, and it is also how we get our information with the API and the JavaScript later on in the coding side of things. So that just plays that. I'll show you here now. Button down. That's all that animation is. So now we're going to take a look at the character and how I set up the state machine to take into account the different temperatures and how to transition into those animations. If you remember this is where we are when we come onto the website. So he is looking around. This is our kind of default state. If we wanted to go into the hot state, it needs to be equal to or greater than 20. I always get these arrows mixed up. I think it's always the one. It's like an alligator. Always eats the bigger one. That's how I remember. Or a crocodile. So that's how that one is. So it is, and this one is not equal to 100. So of course it is equal to 100. So it's not going to go anywhere. But now if I put in 25, you see he transitions to the hot state animation. So goes into this, which is the initial, the in as I call them, so that he gets to that state. And then he goes into his little state here, where he gets constantly redder and redder as he gets burnt. This was it's about 15 seconds long, so it was I didn't loop it because I didn't think someone would leave it on for that long. So then it'll go to get out of that state. It'll have click down, so it needs to wait for this to be clicked down to play the out animation, which just resets it to 0. And then it'll go back into. Also, I've clicked this exit time, which means let it play fully, play 100% of it, so that you don't kind of get any errors or glitches, and go back into the constant state. This is the way I got it to work. I know that any state is another way of doing all that. I won't go into it because I didn't get it to work, so I don't know. But I know, for instance, any state in the messaging works, as in it would go into each messaging, which is here, which is just a little text to say, oh, it's very hot, or oh, geez, it's cold. And that works for that instance, but I couldn't get it for the character, probably because I had so many conditions, as I'll show you now very quickly. This was the condition. If temperature is equal to or greater than 20, you're going in there, you're going into hot. If the temperature is less than 20, but greater than 10, you're going into warm. And same again, it goes into warm. Temperature to cold is great. What's that? Less than or equal to 10 or greater than 2, and then 0 is just greater to less than 2. So even your -4s will get absolutely frozen. So that's generally how that worked. This actually took quite a while to not so much figure out the logic of like, well, we knew what the temps were, but just get it to all to reset, because then I was having issues that I was trying to go from hot to thing, but because the scarf had been keyframed, it was then staying on in the hot states. And this actually, through many weeks of trial and error, was the best way I got the state machine. I don't really like that it resets, but for me, look, it was the best way to get it to work, especially with I wasn't going to be entering in these numbers manually. They had to be taken in from an API. And we see there that the messaging, I'll just have a quick look at the messaging. So it's going into freezing, and then let's say we've got 15, it's gone into warm, 6, it's gone into cold, and 22, it's gone into hot. So that worked for that. Just quickly reference how the error and the inputs, basically I distinguish if an input is right, i.e. it has gotten the information from the API, or it hasn't. This doesn't take into account spelling mistakes, because that was tough and they never figured it out. So this one, so we have our state machine here, and boxes idle. So if we go into boxes idle, this is what we're seeing. Nothing. That means all the boxes are turned off. And then if we go into, let's just say the first one, if it was true. Boop, boop, boop. So the condition is click down. So if the button is clicked down and the city input is greater than 0, I could have just said not 0, but whatever, still works. Which in terms of the coding would mean that there is something in the text box. Text has been put into the text box by the user. So that means if that's true, then it'll go into the first in, which is animate in, and then click down, it'll animate out. And if we're still good, if there's still text in the text box, we'll go into the second instance, click again to come out, and then do the same rule again if it's still good 3. The reason, this is one of the first things to set up, may not be most efficient now, but the reasons that there's 3 states of it, of the same thing, they're all the same animation, the same box. Let's see, I'll show you to be sure. Show them that line. There's the first in, and then let's go to the second in, same, and let's go to the third in, same. You're coming from idle to this, the first one. So from nothing to the first one. I basically wanted to keep bouncing around from second to third to second to third. And I think the reasoning was if I went back to first, it was going to go into the idle because there was no in. I feel like it probably could have done this with 2. But anyway, just basically just that it can keep searching and keep searching and keep searching. And one of the main reasons that it is done like this, as in why I've got animate in and then animate out, is I needed something to hide the kind of half second or 100th of a second that the text needed to load in from the API. So your city, your temp, your sunrise, sunset, and your time and your message. I just needed to hide that so that it wouldn't just change instantly. Just kind of, I didn't want it to just change instantly. I wanted at least pretend like it was animated in, even though I'm just hiding the cut. So that's all I was doing with those. So then we have the error state, which says click down. So if you've clicked down and it is equal to 0, i.e. there's nothing in the search box. So we'll do that now. Put a 0 there. Now we're going to hit it. Boop. You get this. So we have pops in one timeline. Second timeline is just it staying on. If you hit it again and there isn't any, if the city input hasn't changed yet, we just get a little shake. So that was just a feedback thing for the user. And then if a number has been entered in, that goes off. And then we go into the first one. So let's see. We'll play, do no city, then we'll hit 1 because now, actually, I'll leave it at 0 to give you a little shake. No, still haven't done it. You still haven't typed in 4. 1, animates off. Then we go into the first thing, which will be populated through the script. So that's how that's done. One very important part of this was getting the text change based on the API data. Shortly after the actual feature had been announced, was when I started on this. It was quite new at the time. So this is TextRuns. And the way I have it working is, so we type out our text here when you're just creating a text layer as per normal. But underneath that, we have this run. So I just delete that. So you type out your word, which in this instance, I've just typed no city found as an error fallback. But it's if you don't want that, don't worry about it. What you need to worry about, or at least pay attention to, is this. This is the text run. In order to get this to work, you need to name this something unique, because by default, it'll be called run 1, or if you've set multiple runs, as in I could actually split this no city found into 3 text runs, and then each one would be accessible. Text runs, that's what you want to look up on YouTube to learn more about it. You have to name it something unique. That way, it will get rendered out with the file that then can be accessed by your scripting to change it at the runtime. Don't forget that this part here with the T beside it is just your text layer. That's not the thing you need to name. It's the text run. And I could name it the sun. And it won't actually change the text. See, up here is the text run. That's the actual text. This is what you need to name to be accessed from the code in order to change the text later on. So that's how we update our city names, our temperatures, and all that sunrise sunset. Slightly connected to that is our inputs. And our inputs are very, very important. Not so much to click, not so much to hover, as that is just our animation aspects. All of these, so city, temp, thermal, seconds, these are seconds, minutes, all related to the clock and the time zone. These are the inputs that we will be changing with our API and the data we get from the API. So it's important to name them something that you can remember and easily access. I would recommend, once you've named them, copying and pasting them later on when we get into JavaScript, just to be sure that there is no mess up. They're the inputs that I wanted to use. The city input relates to confusingly, it refers to if there's a city been typed in the search box or not. The temp input is just for my state machine here with characters. So like that will be changed by the API. So I'll get, you get your temperature of like 18 degrees. That'll be 18. It'll get swapped into there. That'll then change this animation states. Thermo input was just for the thermo, seconds, minutes, hours. That'll be changed to JavaScript so that the hands will move around to show the correct time. And this time zone input one was a late addition to the menu. It was to account for time zone variations. Now I think this is one that I found that I quite liked in the end. Is about how to resize the box to fit the text. So the city. So this is how we have it set up. So we have a text, and my default text I said no city found. So we made bones, 4 bones, 1, 2, 3, 4. We named top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right, because always name your layers. And we have a transform constraint put onto it. And this is targeting here your city name, which is your text box. And as we can see, there's our text box. And then the bones line up to it. Now, the way it works is we have 4 corners of a rectangle box. And this corner here will always be 0, 0, because that is its origin point, 0, 0. So then you use that logic. So 0, you go 100 on the X, because X across Y to the sky. That's how you remember. S, that's how we get that corner. And then, of course, we go down to see this one, and then it'd be 0 because it's still 0. And then we go Y, so it's 100%. And then if you've figured it out, this will be 100, 100. So that's how we align the bones to the rectangle text box. Again, there is a tutorial from Rive on this who will explain it much better detail. So basically, these bones are now constrained to this text. So if I hop into design mode, so I'm just not making any edits, and I type, well, no, it moves. That's how it still moves. And not fancy that one, because this will be changing live based on our API. For a small city like, let's say, Paris, it kind of works. But then you get, if I had defined it as it was, it would have fit in. But then you get to a city called Paris. So obviously the size difference is huge. And if I hadn't resized this box, it would have gone out over the edges. The bones are there, but then the important part, very important part, is how is actually the box resizing. So we have our box, which is here, we'll say, because so then we go into our path, then we go into our vertices, and then, so let's see this one up here. I have bound all the bones. Sorry, it's hard to say fast. Bound all the bones I bound all the vertices to a specific bone. So this one is specifically to the blue, and we see that here, 100%. And this one over here, yellow, top right, we see again 100%. This one here, 100%. This one here, 100%. That's how you do it. So that means when this bone moves, this vertices will follow it. And likewise for this, and likewise for that and that. You set up your rectangle first, and then bind the vertices. So that way you won't get, if you don't, you'll get, they'll be bound like that. So set them up first, set them up to kind of the padding, if you will, that you want, and then bind them. And this icon is, I've moved its anchor point, or origin point, anchor point is an After Effects term, over to this bone. So then when this moves, it'll move with it, but it's moving it based on its anchor point, which it's a skew. If I left it there and centered, we'll say, or on the bottom, it'll be overlapping and stuff. So that's a nice way, if you want to kind of keep things where they are, move its origin point over, and then that way you'll still have your space, and kind of, so you don't want it to go over the text. Same with let's see, have we got, I think same with this, translate, top L. Yeah, so I put this to kind of stay where that is. I see the anchor point or origin point is still there in the top left. So that way it will relatively stay where it is. The text is the best way. So that's like, whoa, 1 line, 2 line, 3. Nah, you know how to spell 3. 3 line. It works. It was a nice little find throughout the process. Oops. Fancy. I'll tell you, Fancy. Best thing in the world. So that's was repeated throughout all of these. So next we'll look at a use of a blend state. There was kind of 2 instances of blend state. And the 2 instances were this temperature control here, this temperature thermometer, which is controlled by the temperature, and the clock. I'll focus in on the thermo one to show you how. So you can set up a blend state in the state machine. And what this does is, and we're running here, is it blends between 2 timelines based on a value. So I've set up a number input, for the thermometer. And this is going to be controlled by the API data we get later on. So that's why I want it, because all inputs can be given to the code side of things, which is the whole reason this all works. But for this instance, I wanted this animation to change based on the temperature. And it's going to go from 2 timelines. So it's going to be the timeline start, which is this, which is our little critter here, very cold. And then it's going to go this one, just this guy, he's warm and he's pumping out the heat. So the way it works with here is I've set it to be the start one, as in the first time I will play when the value is 0 in its entirety, or it's kind of solely that timeline. And for the second one, the thermo end, when the value is 30, that's the only one that we'll be playing. And the values in between that will blend. So 50 will be a mixture of both. So because these are the same shape, and all that I've actually changed is the color. So I've keyframed in the initial state to be blue, and I've keyed it in to be red. It's just going to blend through those colors. That's how we can get these differences and stuff. And I have a keyframe to rotate here, but by the end there is no keyframes to rotation, so it just blends between the two of them, which is a feature I'm really looking forward to diving into that on, because offering you that flexibility is just great. So that's how we did the thermometer, and I'll talk more about the clock in JavaScript. And finally, for Rive, I'll talk very briefly about nested artboards. Building them is exactly the same as you would any other element in Rive. You have your state machines, your timelines. We build it in. Let's have a look at what this actually does. So let's bang through the idle state. It's going to do a little hop now. There we go, perfect timing. Click it, pause come out. Click out, goes back. It's just super quick. And that goes on. And then the inputs, which is click, which is opens it. Boop. You can, I didn't do expose to artboard, but so then we're back in the main artboard, as we see up here in main, and there's my suitcase. It's my group, and then we see it's a nested artboard, which you create. You'll see it by this icon, the little small artboard icon inside a bigger artboard icon. Makes sense. In order to do this, you do come up to here, nested artboard, click in, select your artboard, which in this case was the suitcase, because I made my layers, so I know everything is, and that's it. And then play it. And luckily, not luckily, they built it and they're very good at doing it. It has come through the click option. Just kind of nice way to keep things nice and clean and tidy. And if you want to reuse, say I want to have for some reason 5 suitcases on the ground, I can reuse it 5 times and not have to build out 5 sets of interactions and animations. So artboard's really helpful. So I think that's it from the Rive side of things. I know that was long and yet incredibly probably fast paced. Hopefully I don't speak too fast for everybody, but there should be a slow option on the video to slow it down if my speech is a bit too fast for you. Again, yeah, obviously I've left a lot out, the clock specifically, and I'm going to sound like a broken record. There's a tutorial out there. I learned all of this from tutorials and just trial and error. So now we're going to dive into the JavaScript. I'm not a coder. It is something I very much learned on the fly. So if you're going from the UX side of things, there might be some nasty things in there that you mightn't like the look of it, but it works. I got it to work and I learned it from scratch. So that's the main thing. So let's dive in there and see how we actually bring this all together and how we use APIs to populate this. Okay, so here we are on the coding side of things. I'm using Code Sandbox, which is a browser-based way to put in your code. We see it here on the left, and then we get to see what it looks like as a website here on the right. This will be very vague. I'm not a UX designer. I'm not a coder. So apologies to all those people. So I won't be talking about anything HTML based as much, because that's stuff that you can very readily find online. There's plenty of documentation for that. There's maybe a little bit less so for the Rive. So that's what I'm going to try and focus in on. This is to load in the Rive renderer. If you don't know how to do that in web-based stuff, the documentation has a guide on how to do it. But I will show it here, but to better understand it, that's it. So you use this bit of line first, and this is the version history, so that number will change. It'll still work. Maybe you might miss out on new features if you don't know that. Keep abreast of what the actual latest version is. This is the search input box here. That's all HTML based, so that's you can figure that out yourself. Nothing better than nothing gained. So here we actually have 2 Rive instances on the website. So we have the logo up here that has a hover state built in on the right hand side, and that's it. And then we have the second one here, which is our main one. This is how you call in your Rive file. So it's a local file. That's it, HT titles. again, same place where you find out how to run on web. So this is in terms of the layout, to keep it centered, and then this is to load in the actual Rive file, and then that's how we're referencing the layout, on this part. So that's this part here is all for the logo. So all the logo wanted to do is load in, and when it hovers, because the animations, the animation interactive video like hovers and all that is in the Rive file. I don't need to code it, which is one of the main reasons of Rive, essentially. I don't need to code that. It's in there. When I hover, it'll text events. And then the bones of everything now is in this script section. As we see, ginger.rive, state machines. I left everything named state machines. You can name these whatever you want within Rive. I just left them as is. So, inputs. We're getting to the inputs now. These are the inputs that we defined earlier, and we'll hop back in very. So here they are, all our inputs that we've defined here, plus the click. Click triggers under that group. These are the main ones. So then if we go back, we can see them all here. These are the terms that I'm defining, or sorry, these are the names of the variables. So we're saying it's going to be equal to this, which is our inputs. I confusingly named them the same, except with a capital I. Then in some instances, I've noticed that I put an S. But these are the ones you'll need within the code. And this is just how you get all of them from Rive. So we are going to just skip over this part for now, because I want to show you how to get to change the text first, and to get all the API values. And then we'll come back to that, because they're just different elements. We type in here, and we're going to type in parse. And then we are going to click the button. Now, when I click this, and it's something that I'll jump back into Rive to show you what it's doing. It's going to fire an event listener. So in Rive, we have an event listener that I've created. And that is created here, under this button here. And what the event listener, and in the code, in my click down, sorry, and in my click down, which is click down for this big button here, it's going to report to onClick. So we'll see what that actually looks like now. Click, we saw it flash there, again, flash. So that means that it's just giving it the information saying it's been clicked. Now, where this comes into play here is, if it's been clicked, check out this function. So if, and then it says check this, do the check whether, which is the function I've named for getting the API information, and the search box value, which would be parse in this instance. Take me there. Boom. So now we have the parse information. Where do we actually get the information from? Using Openweather is where we got the information. I've linked to a tutorial below. That was the literal tutorial that I learned all how to do the API stuff, and it will show you much better how to do it. But basically, you can access API data from Openweather as you sign up. It's free, totally free. So that then in your apps or your websites, you can take this data and use it. Once you've signed up to Openweather, which again, that video tutorial will show you how to do that, you'll be given this information. This is my key. Don't use it. I mean, I know, just get your own. Like it's not a scary thing, but just get your own. Don't be taking other keys. I know it's bad web practice, everybody, from the UX design side of things, but it's flipping. Look, this thing's called Hot Ginger. So you get that, and then you come here to this function. Again, the tutorial goes through this, so I'm not going to spend too much I won't go into the detail of it. But basically, once you click it, it'll run this function, which is goes to the website, uses your key, uses the city, and then it's going to wait for the data command, come back in a JSON file, and then it's going to store it in a thing I've called data. Now in Sandbox up here, you've got Preview Console. So here is actually where you can see your JSON data. For instance, there's Paris, and then we have temp that is -3. It actually feels about 1. Of course, you can see I rounded all these up just for the sake of legibility. There's all these things that I didn't use. I just wanted to get it to work first before I do this. Sunrise, sunset. So this is where all my actual data is. So how did I change it? Just before I close it, this is the best way to check that your actual information is correct. Because if it's not matching this or working like this, then obviously something's gone wrong. So to change the text within Rive and through coding, we can do these text run values. Get a text run value and you can set a text run value. So in this instance, we want to set the text run value. So remember we named all our text layers, the text runs with our specific names. So here's mine: city, temp, feels like, sunrise, sunset, text city, text temp. And if we just go back into our console here, and there, see, data is what I've called the collective information here. So this is data. And every time I go dot something, it boils down. So dot name is here, Paris. And then if I do dot main dot temp, yes, that is correct. I remembered. Here we are. So we go overall is call dot data. You can call it whatever you want. And then go down dot main. Okay, we're looking here. And then look into temp. Okay, we're looking here. And I've used mass.round, which just rounds up the number. So it's going to round it up to 1. And then I put plus this Unicode, or this is the term for the little circle, and then a C. So that way it's defined after. So you can see sunrise to sunrise time. That's asterisk, massive asterisk on that one because I had to convert it from UTC into what it is. I'll show you how to do that. So, okay, so I was able to reference or, which is what I have defined my Rive file as, or, the or. And then set text, so set text run in there. So I said set text, get the run text run city, and now make it to data.name, which is data.name. And do that everything without. This is a variable. I'll show you in a second. And then I do or.set. So basically change all the values that are in that to the values that you've got from JSON. Now for the sunrise, I had to convert it into the format we see here. Luckily, JavaScript has built this in to help you format it. So new date, which is it's now saying these values sunrise, which is I've set the variable here data.sys, so data, the overarching one, sys dot sunrise. So dot sunrise, this big number obviously doesn't look like 840, plus time zone, which is data.time zones with data time zone 3600, which is UK Irish. Well, you can't just put 3600 in because its gob's going to change, so you want to account for it. And then times 1000, which is, as far as I can understand, is how you convert UTC number. So what then I do is, so this, that should give me like a digestible time. And to the local time string, which you could define there as far as I'm aware. So basically make it numeric, make it 2 digits. So, no point, like the seconds could be there, and then 24 hours. It gives me AM and PM. And because a string is like a word, an integer is a number. So I said my variable was this is the number, this is now a number. And then I said, combine that with the time zone, make it into a string, make it into text because I need it to be a text row. I need to be text in order to change text row. And there is what we got. Sunrise time, it plopped in there. It works. Right, so that's how I got the text to change. Close the console. And I'm just going to quickly look over to make sure there's nothing too confusing. No, the text, because I've used a text modifier, which this is one of the things I love about Rive, is because I've used text modifiers on all my text, the animation will always remain, because it's coded in to work with whatever the text is. It's percentage based, so it's based on let's go to San Francisco because that's quite a big one. I remember all these. big ones because I had to constantly be testing it out. So we go to San Francisco, take me there again. As you can see, massive big box. There's your bones in action. There's your everything being linked up so that we could resize. The text is now changed, but all our animation is exactly the same because that's why life is good. That's why. Messaging change based on the information. Here's our time. This is how we fire with hitting an enter key. So up until then, you have to hit the button to get it to fire off and, get to this stage. But of course, most people probably just want to hit enter when they type that in. So there's how we are. Click trigger is the input that I've defined in Rive, and then dot fire is just like will help click it. So that was a late addition, but I would argue it's a very important one. And then we're on to the search box. So this says if the search box .value.length, which is just the value of the word, the length of the word. So, Paris would be 5, Sydney would be 6, that kind of stuff, is equal to 0, which means nothing's typed in here. These are all, that's actually not, that hasn't typed, that's just a placeholder text. City inputs .value would be 0, which is what we've defined in Rive, which is, I'll show you here, which is here. So that will get changed 0. So if we hit, I haven't entered that in, but then if we do, we have to do them, leads. And now if we hit it, it's like -3 in leads. It's very cold there right now. It'll just go back to your first, it'll go through the proper procedure. You can see the time has changed. Let's just show that time changing. Paris, I think it's only an hour ahead, so that should jump to 8 o'clock or quarter to 8. Still cold there, even colder. Oh my god. And then just, and then we click in here, look at all these things working. Thermostat, let's go something very warm, which is Chennai. Oh my god. Not for gingers. No. Too hot. But probably a very lovely place. Oh yeah. Just a quick note. This is it seems to be a problem I was having with the temperature not coming in as an integer, which I needed for the thermostat chap here. So what I did was temp API, which is, get the what's in that temp after we've ran the search. It'll be a string, which is text. It'll be text. So we can't use text, we need a number. So we do parse int, which just converts that into a number. And then we set the values of those inputs to then be this. So that's the temp, which is here. It is thermo, which is what is powering here. So that's how we just change it into a number, because to us, it looks like a number, but it's actually a text version of that number. So that's how we do that. And I think that's it. Yeah, that was a lot, wasn't it? Hopefully you found that interesting and enlightening. I know it's a lot to take in. So please message me with any comments or queries. If you're a coder and you message me and you go, actually, here's how you could have done that in significantly less time, please let me know. I'm definitely open to learning way more on that side of things. Some things that maybe the takeaway of what I found really useful while making this in Rive and learning it all and on the go. Firstly, being organized is always the best way to do it. And look at all these. They're all within their own folders. They're all named. It's just when you get to this, and as you can see, there's not a lot of, you can make a bit of room to see it, but there's not too much room. So be organized so that we know when we get there, when we're looking for stuff, we're going to see it quick enough and easy enough. Be kind to yourself and be kinder to your future self. We'll explain what what's this nudie? Well, let's see what find out nudie is. It's very hot out. Oh my god, that is ridiculous. Why did you put that in there? Who put that in there? Yeah, stupid things like that. Love doing that. Nested artboards came in while I was building this, so that was amazing. The bones, resizing the box, really, that's an excellent one that I want to take home and use constantly. These are all your layers in your state machine, doing all these things. It took me ages to find out that if you use your mouse to scroll, you actually get to see, go back and forth. I was adding layers in at the, so I could jump to the end and see those ones. So that was kind of a bit of a trick. Jeez. So scroll, use your mouse wheel, scroll. Unfortunately, I don't know what it's like on a laptop and a trackpad. Joysticks was great. That was great addition to do. Disappointed with the character animation, but your look, I had to pick my battles, so that was one. Unfortunately, I lost a bit, but essentially that's how it was made. The inputs did the work here, and the text runs do the work. That's how we get our little text runs. So we type our lovely Edinburgh in. We say, "Take me there." That's where we are. That's how cool it is here right now. Not too great. And that's it, because we have great things like text modifiers updating the text, the state machine is handling the character. I mean, state machine is handling everything, but most particularly the state machine, and it's the logic that I've defined for him. And it's super small file size. You know, I checked there very briefly, and it's a 4.6 megabytes for all that. You wouldn't get a GIF like that. That's all I'll say. So yeah, this was my personal project based on a very stupid joke. I'll leave it there. Always fire your time.